Hello, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Crendor, and today I'm joined by Nobbel.
Hello, everyone. Speaking of stealing things, I actually stole that from you as well. I just thought about it. My intro I took from you.
I mean, everybody takes something from somebody else at some point.
Y'all missed the introduction conversation. Like, for me, speaking of something, for all of you, it's just getting started. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody even knows what this is about yet. We're just like, what's going on? Well, I guess they do because it's titled, the video title, but we're going to be talking about Dragonflight lore. It's way better than, oh my god, I'm flying around and then they're just like, the Dragon Isles are under attack. Use your abilities to fight, whatever. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to hear that. I just want to fly around.
I was going through a beautiful questline the other day, and one of them went like, "Oh, you look like a mortal who loves murdering people," and I was like, "Oh man, there goes the moment." Thank you, game.
So we're going to talk about the lore, because so far the lore has been vastly superior to Shadowlands, which, you know, well, it's not that hard to do. But I really enjoyed questing in Dragonlands, or Dragonflight, whatever you want to call it, back when it launched. But now we're getting to the point where like there's patches and different types of lore stuff, and it's getting a little hard to keep up. But that's why you're here, so I can ask you questions and get them answered.
I'm gonna try. Like, we haven't done one for Dragonflight at all yet, have we? Like, the last one we did was for Shadowlands?
Yeah, the last one we did was Shadowlands. We did going into Dragonflight.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right, so just start at the beginning then, and then start rolling. If you got any questions, dive into it.
Yeah, so let's just do like, you know, the very basics of Dragonflight lore, kind of where we began and where we've arrived to.
Alrighty, so after Shadowlands, we did a bit of a time skip, 5 years-ish, where nothing really major happened on Azeroth. And in that time period, for some reason, the Elements woke up and the Dragon Isles woke up. After the War of the Ancients, which was like 10,000 years ago, the big war with the Night Elves and the Burning Legion and Sargeras and Azora and all that, the dragons decided to lock away the Dragon Isles, give it time to heal, and when it was ready, it would call them back home again. But that took quite a while. That took over 10,000 years before they were all called back home. It finally did happen, and we all returned to the Dragon Isles with new allies called the Dragfear. Dragfear were these secret experiments done by the Black Dragon aspect Neltharion, also known as Deathwing, as most of you know him from the Cataclysm introductionary cutscene. Back when he made the Dragfear, but he lost control over the Dragfear, and he feared that they would rise up against him, that they were out of control, that he could not completely dominate them. So together with his buddy Malygos, they decided to lock those Dragfear away and put them in deep slumber. They also woke up for reasons, and they've now joined either the Alliance of the Horde, they followed Ebonhorn or Rephion, and all together we went to the Dragon Isles to answer the call to dragons and help them wherever we could. As we went across the Isles, we dealt with the different Dragonflights. You got the reds, the blues, the greens, the bronze, and the black. And all of them have like the little issues. For example, the Black Dragonflight is dealing with Deathwing. Like, Deathwing was defeated and killed at the end of the Cataclysm, so they have no leader now. The Blue Dragonflight is dealing with a family that's disconnected. The Green Dragonflight with Ysera that's in the Shadowlands and her daughter Marifra taking over. The Bronze Dragonflight has the storyline with Nosdormu eventually becoming Moruzant, like the infinite dragon. And the Red Dragonflight, the queen keeping it all together, all that good stuff. So as we went across the Isles, we met friends, we dealt with the baseline problems of the different families. And of course, we also came across new enemies, because in an expansion, you need heroes, but you also need the bad guys. We met species like the Jardin, which were like the fire giants on the Dragon Isles. But primarily at the beginning, we dealt with a threat called the Primalist and the Primal Incarnates. The Primalist, they've suddenly showed up. They're very much connected to the elements, and they knew about this secret war that played out even before the War of the Ancients, before 10,000 years ago. They knew that this war played out. We, as a player, we didn't know about this, so this is new story being added in gaps, right?
Yep.
So the Primalists, they show up, and they're like, hey, Razageth, the Thunder Chicken, let's go. We're going to set you free, and let's get this expansion rolling. And Razagev's goal was to liberate her siblings, because she wasn't the only primal incarnate that was imprisoned. You also had Virak, which was fire, Iridikron, which was earth, and Viranov, which was the icy one, and they were imprisoned elsewhere. So Razagev went across the Isles trying to liberate her siblings. We tried to stop her. But the last time that this war was fought out against the Primal Incarnates, the Dragon Aspects were at full strength. They were all Aspects, they were all united, they were all great. Nelfarian embraced the powers of the Old Gods. They won that war. But a lot of time has passed since that moment, and some of the Aspects have been killed. All of them are depowered at the end of the Cataclysm. So our main objective was to deal with those problems, was to unite them again and re-empower them. Unfortunately, the whole re-empowering thing has not worked out yet. Alexstrasza tried, and she was unable to. So instead, we went into the Vault of the Incarnates. We tried to stop Razagev from freeing her siblings. At the end of the road, we were able to defeat Razagev, but unfortunately, her siblings are set free. And that's basically the beginning, the first patch of Dragonflight.
I see. I actually got showing off my Razageth mount. I got the mount there.
You got the skin?
Yeah, I got the
lucky.
skin. Yeah, it was only like on our third raid too. I was like, nice. Never have to do this raid again.
How did you like the raid?
It's actually a really good raid. I enjoyed it quite a bit. We did normal. We did the hardcore. I didn't beat Razageth on hardcore, I don't think, but we got like halfway through the raid on hardcore, and then we never did mythic or anything. But it was a really enjoyable raid. I liked it a lot.
No, they've been very mellow on the amount of trash as well in the raids. That's always a plus. You can focus more on the fights.
Yeah, I always like that too. So one thing I want to mention is the Bronze Dragonflight, because I really enjoyed the Bronze Dragonflight questline with Chromie, right? And you're like going all around, and then there's that one thing where like Chromie's like, and she's fighting the one dragon. I can't think of his name.
It's not Eternus. It's I know which one you mean. It's the infinite dragon that's trying to mess it all up.
Yeah, and they're like falling through time, and you got to go through, and you find the all the wacky Murloc stuff that happens, and then all the things. So that was fun. I said that quest chain was better than all of Shadowlands lore.
yeah, that's not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So my main question there is like, can you go a bit more in detail about that specific quest line, because that's probably one of my favorites? And then I always get confused with like how the dragonflight, or not the bronze dragonflight even like works, like caverns of time and all that. Like, did they just like build the caverns of time one day and it's just like, there it is?
Okay. So how the Bronze Dragonflight works. So once upon a time, the Dragon Aspects, they were just proto-dragons, and they managed to defeat Galagrond, and they were empowered by the Titans to perform different duties. So Ysera would do the Emerald Dream, Alexstrasza would be the Queen of the Red Flight, Nelfarian connected to the world, Malygos would do magic, and Nosdormu and the Bronze Dragonflight, they would have dominion over time. The idea behind it, and this might change, but what we know right now is that there is one true timeline in World of Warcraft, but there are alternate realities. So there's a Murloc reality, for example, or there is Warlords of Draenor is a good example as well. There's an alternate Draenor. There are alternate timelines out there, but it's the Bronze Dragonflight's duty to make sure that time flows as it's supposed to. So even the bad stuff, as we saw in Caverns of Time, we saw Medivh open up the Dark Portal. We saw Arthas go to Northrend and eventually become the Lich King. Those bad things need to happen. No matter what you might think about them, they need to happen in order to keep time flowing as it's supposed to flow. Otherwise, according to the Titans, bad stuff would happen. Now, to make sure that these Bronze Dragons, or at least Nosdormu, don't feel like they're gods and that they're above time, they were also shown their moment of demise, the moment in which they're supposed to die, and this moment they're not allowed to change. So even though they keep time flowing, they're not allowed to change their own death. Then we go a little bit in murky territory. So when it comes to Nosdormu, and I think they wrote themselves a little bit in a corner. Keep in mind, this is lore like Cataclysm. It's what, 10 years, 15 years ago? It's like quite a while now.
Yeah, 12 years maybe.
And considering how quickly they might change their mind about the lore and the rules and the story, it might be different. But what we know right now is that at some point in time, our Nosdormu decides to break that rule, and he becomes Moruzand, which is his name, but the letters thrown around differently.
Yeah.
He becomes the aspect of the infinite Dragonflight, and he decides to start messing around with time. And this majorly came forward in the expansion, the Cataclysm. Back then, we had the plan to take the Dragon Soul out of the past and bring it back into our timeline, as by that point in time, in our timeline, the Dragon Soul has been destroyed. We need the Dragon Soul in order to stop Deathwing, and we wanted to go back in time. But behold, somebody was stopping Nosdormu from doing that. Wouldn't you know it, it was Nosdormu himself stopping himself from going back in time. We slay Moruzand, in which he says, like, oh, you think this is true end time? What I've seen is way worse, and I'm on fool. You powered me, but now I'm killed. Bleh. And then Nosdormu makes the circle complete, in which he tells us, cool, the circle is complete. This is my moment of demise. One day I will become Moruzand. You will rise up and you will kill me. So we know when the moment comes that Nosdormu is going to die, which is Moruzand. So we know that our Nosdormu, and then I think that's the circle that they don't want to put themselves in, but they created it anyways. So now we go back to Dragonflight, and during the questing zone that we're talking about, Nosdormu has been feeling the shadow of Moruzand for a while now. He's been feeling like, okay, at some point I'm going to fall to darkness. I'm going to go to my moment of demise. There's not much I can do about it. It's going to happen. And we see these infinite dragons show up and try to push him towards that moment. But our Chromie is like, hang on a minute, Nosdormu, don't you worry about it. I'm going to find a way to try and fix this. And this is actually the major storyline for the upcoming patch, 10.1.5, I believe. We're going to get a new mega dungeon, and that storyline and alternate realities and scenarios and all that, it's all going to be fully explored. And then ... question marks, like how is it going to play out? We don't know yet. Personally, I'm speculating, thinking that maybe they'll go with the idea that Titans simply lie and that Nosdormu's moment of demise is not really a thing. But I personally would not be a fan of that, because that would throw away anything that Bronze Dragonflight ever stood for. Like, if their duty of keeping the sacred timeline sacred, the one true timeline, if that's not really a thing, then their whole history has just been based on a lie. And I don't know, I personally feel like that would not be the greatest solution. Alternatively, what I would find interesting is that Nosdormu become a Moruzand is willingly a choice by Nosdormu. Maybe to save Chromie, maybe to save the timeline, because we got to keep in mind, Nosdormu was told by the Titans, you're not allowed to change your moment of demise, right? His moment of demise is Nosdormu changing his moment of demise. So that doesn't work. Which of course you can write off as Blizzard writing, which is fair enough. But at the same time, what if he willingly chooses to become Moruzand? If you go to the capital city in Dragonflight, there's like one spot next to the aspects open for somebody to stand there. Some are thinking that maybe Viranov, the Primal Incarnate, will take up that spot, which could be a thing. I'm personally hoping it's going to be Moruzand and that he just becomes an ally in this expansion. And then somewhere in the future, he will show up back in the past in the Cataclysm and pretend to be our enemy in order to keep that timeline pure. That's my personal hope, but only time is going to tell.
That would be pretty cool, actually. I was gonna also ask the Caverns of Time. Like, is that just, do we not even know how that like began, or like what is the purpose of the Caverns? It's not really even related to Dragonflight super well. It kind of is, but you know what I mean.
It's a really good question. I'm gonna have to look it up. As far as I remember from the Caverns of Time, it suddenly showed up in the Burning Crusade as a raid instance. It's the lair of the Bronze Dragonflight. I know that Nosdormu just spends a whole bunch of time there. Let's see. I think it's just the lair created by the Bronze Dragonflight, to be honest. Not much else is created there. Like the portals that we constantly see, I doubt that lore-wise there are portals on Azeroth that just constantly bring you back to the end time.
Right.
It's more like the Bronze Dragonflight story-wise open it up for you.
Okay, I see. That would make...
Yeah. And lore-wise, it's also like a place where they keep the relics and the artifacts. Like outside, you can see like the ship. Nosdormu at some point just spent all of his time gathering artifacts from time and didn't really care about his duty until he was like risen up and standing against Deathwing again. Beyond that, like the origin of the Caverns of Time, I don't think we actually know.
Huh,
it's a good question. Yeah.
So I always wondered that, but I I can kind of see it. It's more just the, it might not even have an answer. It might just be a simple thing like they wanted to make it, so they made it because it was easy or something. I don't know.
I mean, it's been there for millennia, because if we, like the War of the Shifting Sands, which was like Cthulhu trying to break out of Ankh-Kiraj to put up a wall and whatnot. Even back then, the Bronze Dragons were already chilling there. That's the whole reason why the dragons joined the battle.
Okay, interesting. Huh. Yeah.
In the RPG, there were like rumors or whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Maybe we'll get more Caverns of Time details at some point, but
It'll be cool. Like a little bit more origin behind it. It's a good chapter to dive into.
Yeah, maybe if they ever redo old Azeroth again, they'll do something with that. Who knows? Maybe. So now I wanted to shift it a little bit to the two. What are they called? The two Black Dragon leaders, right? Or Black Dragonflight. It's what's his name? Rathian and
Sibelian.
Sibelian, that's it. I couldn't remember the other one. So, like, what is their kind of main story? Like, I kind of know their main story, but, like, all I know at this point is they want me to do quests for them. They're like, who's better? And I'm like, I kind of like you more, but honestly, I don't think I really like either of them that much. I don't know.
So the idea behind it is that once upon a time we had Deathwing, and Deathwing became the big bad at the end of the Cataclysm, and we took care of Deathwing, which pretty much left the Black Dragonflight without leadership. And a big part of their story is that they've been corrupted by the old gods. Neltharion, even before they turned him into a dragon, he could hear those whispers of the old gods, and then they turned him into the aspect of Earth. Earth connected to Azeroth, connected to like those prisons of the old gods. Over time, his entire flight was just taken over by the madness of the old gods. Was no good. Sibelian is one of the old gods. Old guards, as in one of the children that were there back when, similar to like Onyxia and Neltharion. So Onyxia that we saw back in Classic, Neltharion from like Blackwing Lair. Sibelian was the other son. Sibelian joined his dad on a mission into Outlands, and then the Dark Portal closed up, and Sibelian was stuck in Outlands. In the Burning Crusade, we did a couple of quests with him, with like Gruul in the lair, and like the big Grun in that broken area, Blade Edge. And there he also became friends with Rexxar, but he was kind of stuck in that time period. He was stuck in Burning Crusade, and they didn't do a whole lot with him. In the meantime, the expansion Cataclysm played out, where we joined the Red Dragonflight in creating a new Black Dragon, one that would not be corrupted by the old gods, in this case Rephion. And Rephion was really, really cool, in my opinion. And he went on this first he went on this quest of eradicating the Black Dragonflight, like get rid of all the corruption. Then he went on the quest of, he could foresee the coming of the Legion, but accidentally he made the coming of the Legion happen and kill Varian, and whoopsie daisy, a whole bunch of things happened. But ultimately, it kind of came around with Rephion being able to help us take care of the old god N'Zoth in Battle for Azeroth. Like, he hooked us up with a cloak, he brought like protection, a sword, and we were able to take care of N'Zoth and the other old gods. And as our mission originally was back at the Cataclysm, we set out to make an uncorrupted Black Dragon, and their mission is to take care of the world, take care of the Earth. So Rephion was able to cleanse the world, which was a pretty big deal. Unfortunately, the storytelling, in my opinion, didn't convey it that well. But he did a massive, massive thing. And in between, we also met a third child of Deathwing, or a third Black Dragon, I should say, which is called Ebonhorn. And Ebonhorn actually was given a role during Legion, and his role was to take over from Rephion. Back in the beta, Rephion was supposed to come with us into High Mountain, and at some point they decided to add Ebonhorn instead of Rephion. So Ebonhorn is a Black Dragon that, after the War of the Ancients was created, also cleansed the corruption of the old gods, but he was locked away on the Broken Isles for like 10,000 years, so nobody really knew about him. He eventually came to the surface as we partied during Legion. He met up with Rephion. Rephion even saved him from the corruption of the old gods. And then with Battle for Azeroth, with Dragonflight, you basically have 3 candidates to become ruler of the Black Dragonflight: Rephion, Sibelian, and Ebonhorn. But Ebonhorn at the beginning was not really a thing. They really made it between Rephion and Sibelian. You could choose who do you want to support with like daily quest and weekly quest. Fill up both the bars, get your rewards. Who is it going to be? Then we go into patch 10.1, Embers of Neltharion, and this patch brought us into Zarlek Caverns and Laboratory of Neltharion. We learned more about the history of the Black Dragonflight, and as we went there, we heard like whispers, and Raffion, who has spent a whole lot of time researching the Old Gods, could not figure out that, maybe the Old Gods or the Void was whispering to him. Sibelian was also definitely feeling some effects of that darkness, and throughout the adventure, it became pretty clear that they were pushing towards Ebonhorn being the voice of reason, being the one keeping them together, being the more stable force, and not necessarily wanted to embrace the legacy of their father. Ebonhorn wanted to lead them into a different future. So at the end of the road, after 10.1, we went through the laboratory with Sibelian, with Raffion. We took care of their father's legacy. We learned more about what Deathwing was doing. And ultimately, both of them decide, you know what, Ebonhorn, you're the one to take up this job. Like, Sibelian will be the powerhouse, Raffion will be more the diplomat, and Ebonhorn will be their chosen aspect. Now, that is more so in title rather than power, because as I mentioned, Alexstrasza tried to re-empower the dragons that we had and failed. So far, they're still very much depowered, but when it comes to like title and role of leadership, our boy Ebonhorn has stepped up and become the aspect of the Black Dragonflight.
Which I think is great. We needed more High Mountain Tarn representation.
Hell yeah. I mean, yes, at the same time, I think it's a bit of a shame that they decided to make the others look worse in order to make Ebonhorn look better. And that's not something new to Blizzard's writing. They've done it many times before. For example, in Mr. Pandaria, that's a good example in my opinion. There's a scenario where Varian and Tyrande, they fight against the orcs, and Tyrande is like, I want to charge in there. And Varian is like, patience, Tyrande, we have to wait. And I'm like, Tyrande is 10,000 years old. Like, you're going to tell me that she doesn't know how to fight in a war better than Varian? She fought in the freaking War of the Ancients, no?
Yeah.
But okay, whatever. That's apparently how they wanted to do it. At the end of the day, Ebonhorn, in my opinion, just because he has done less in the story, makes him a better choice for leadership. And ultimately, that part about making the others look worse is, in my opinion, a bit of a negative. The rest of it, I really enjoyed bringing like the whole Black Dragonflight story together, and the embers and the history. Yeah, it's really well done.
Yeah, it's there's definitely some times where the writing feels a bit, unrealistic. It's like if they're playing basketball, then Michael Jordan doesn't know what to do or something. It's like, all right, come on.
Well, Jesse once said it really nicely, is that Blizzard is really good at, most of the time anyways, really good at telling a story in their expansion. But if you look at the overall thing, like Raffion not recognizing whispers as being whispers of the Old Gods, ridiculous. He spent many expansions researching the powers of the Old Gods. If anybody should instantly recognize it, it would be him. But yeah, I mean, if you just look at it, what's happening right now is pretty nice.
Yeah. It's I mean, I'm still glad Ebonhorn's the one they seem to be going with, because I really didn't like Rathian or Sibelian. All I really knew about Rathian was from his like Pandaria stuff, then a little bit of the Cataclysm. As somebody who just generally speeds through quests and like is like, this guy's giving me quests, I follow them around and like don't really read into it too much.
Oh man, the Raffion legendary questline Pandaria was great though. Like with the cloak and then dealing with the history of his father. Yeah, I thought it was wonderful. And then Sibelian, unfortunately, Sibelian's problem is that, like I said, they locked him away with the Burning Crusade and he hasn't done a whole lot. And then all of a sudden he shows up and he's like, oh yeah, I'm no longer corrupted by the Old Gods. And oh yeah, I got like these Black Dragon eggs for you all. And he just all of a sudden shows up and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the leader now. And he's kind of missing, like, I don't know, like a legacy episode or a short story explaining more as to what happened on Outlands, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a lot of just holes that need some answers, but maybe eventually we'll get them, or they'll just hope you forget. It could be either one. So what about, do you know anything about the mole people? I know they have like an actual name, it's like the Niferin or whatever, but I call them the mole people.
I don't know what the point is of the mole people. Maybe you know the point of the mole people. Well, I just know the mole people, the Niffen, as you meet them in the caverns, and this new race, and they make all these smelly puns, and it's great. And then their village gets burned down, and it's really sad, and they don't do anything else. They're literally just there to be burned to a crisp, and I'm like, what was the point of you?
I mean, it's like rabbits in real life. Rabbits generally just are there to get eaten and hop around. You know, it's it's part of nature. There's always those animals that are just there and they just get eaten. And it's like, man,
Yeah, but they
that
don't
sucks.
expect me to get renowned for rabbits, right? Like I don't have to do daily quests for rabbits, now do I?
No, here's the thing. They're still, I still think they're very cool. You know, you go dig with them and they're like, hey, y'all. They're like, I think their whole point is that they're just there and they just got in the way of all this stuff happening. And it's kind of funny because I always like these types of things. This is what I love doing with like any type of content or non-content stuff I make or pointless top is finding the weird, random, meaningless stuff in the way. And they're just kind of one of those things. Like they were just chilling, having a good time, and then all of a sudden all this dragon stuff's going on and they're just like, I don't know what's going on. And then like, oh shit, they're burning everything down. So I think they're just, you know, kind of like that.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I get that part, and that part is great. But I was like, where's my Niffen army? Where are my allies in battle? Where are, I don't know, any supplies or quest lines that have to deal with their enemies or any kind of role? And it's like, nah. It's like, welcome to the caverns. Over on the left side, you can have some snail races. Over on the right side, we can do some mapping. And beyond that, just have fun. We're just gonna be here.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. There could be one of them that rises up, becomes the next great warrior of our generation. You never know.
Yeah.
Speaking of that type of thing, Tuskar. Do you know anything about how the Tuskar have been doing, or is it mainly just from what we've done, like questing, and they're just kind of chilling there, and you'll learn a little bit?
Oh, you got the hard questions this time. Tusker. Okay, so what I remember from Dragonflight is like, of course, we got the feast going on, which is kind of cute. Caligos also played a big part when it comes to the Tusker, when he learned more about his family. I'm pretty sure he's gonna send a car into space really, really soon. But ultimately, the main new thing that we learned, I think, is specific to the Tusker and the Dragon Isles, are the ones that are with otters, which was a really cute little side quest line during Renown, where they're like picked with the otters and they hunt together and they're like mated for life and whatnot. Beyond that, it's pretty much what we've seen before, except now they're also on the Dragon Isles. So these Tusker have also been chilling here for quite a while.
Literally, they're in a chilly part. Yeah, I think that's the thing with a lot of the, I guess, sub factions and races, is that a lot of them are just there because, like I said, they're just kind of chilling there, and they're just, you know, they don't really super get involved. They're just kind of living their life, and this just got in the way of them.
Yeah, but at least in the case of the Tusker, like they had a fairly big role when it comes to Caligos's evolvement. Like when the Caligos enters the village, he eats some soup and he learns more about how they deal with family members passing away and how they honor life, not by being completely devastated somebody passed away, rather they focus on the life that they've had. And this is something that then in turn Caligos takes with him as he goes into reuniting the Blue Dragonflight. And they say goodbye to Senegos. Like, honestly, the Blue Dragonflight questline that they've added, for those that might not be playing World of Warcraft right now, it's, in my opinion, one of the, if not the best questlines that they ever added.
Wow.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, man. They bring back all the history of the Blue Flight. They add some new details to it. Really nicely done. They even bring, if you've done in the Cataclysm, there was this legendary questline for Tyragosa's Wrath, the staff that you could get.
Oh, yeah.
That staff will let you transform into her visage. And they've made it so that if you do the Blue Dragon questline on a character that has done that quest with the staff, you will add the visage to your mount journal. So you no longer have to use the staff in order to transform. Like, how cool is that? Like,
that
all
is
the little details added. So in the case of the Tusker, they definitely played a part in, okay, we are part of this land and we will help you out. Same way that they guided us during the questing. Like, we had to look for these arcane crystals, and since they were familiar with the land, they would help us out. The kobolds with the whole poison thing was also a thing that played out. But again, in the case of the Niffen, as we're relating it to it, I'm just wondering, like, what did the Niffen exactly do when it comes to the overarching storyline? Like, I was hoping, it's not that I hate the Niffen, by the way, just for somebody who's listening. Like, I really like the Niffen. I just want them to do more in the story. I'm like, what is your point?
Yeah, like you want them to have that moment of like, they feed him soup, he learns his lesson, you know, character growth, then he moves on. He's like, wow, thanks for teaching me everything. And they're just like, see you later, have a good life. And then he goes off and, like, you know, carries on. Because that's, you know, that's like a common, I wouldn't even say it's a trope. Like, that's just a staple of good stories, like going somewhere, learning something, and then moving on with the story.
And especially for the dragons, like learning something from mortals that they overlook. Like there's a whole book, Twilight of the Aspects, in which Thrall teaches them how to be aspects. And while I still find that really to be a bit out there, at the same time, there's something to be said about the morality behind immortal dragons or powerful dragons learning something from the common races. Similar to how somebody who has immortal life would learn something from somebody who only has a normal lifespan, right? Like they seize the day and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, overall, like, everything's just been really, it's been like a nice breath of fresh air in terms of lore. Cause like, I'm not gonna lie, I was getting so tired of like the jailer and the maw and I was just like, dude, and Sylvanas, my God, Sylvanas. Like, I'm so glad I haven't seen Sylvanas in forever.
I leveled an alt the other day, and I was going to Shadowlands because it was a good experience. And the more we were doing it on stream, the more we were talking about what exactly happened during Shadowlands, the angrier I got, man. I was like, oh my God, I remember now why I quit. It was so, and it's so nice that a lot of it just seems to be left in Shadowlands as well. Like, if we look at Dragonflight, like, what exactly, the jailer ended it with, oh, I might be bad, but you don't know what's coming. Nobody cares. It's been 5 years and nobody cares that something's coming. They're just living their life. You know, it's wonderful.
It's one of those things where when you do that so often, it loses its meaning after a while. Like somebody's like, I was the big bad, but now here comes the even badder big bad. And then you do that a few times, you're like, dude, all right, you can't keep doing this.
Yeah. And I've said it a million times, something world ending, a fire-breathing dragon can be just as threatening as something like a jailer or an Argus or a Sargeras. It's just a matter of how do you portray it and how do you raise the stakes. And in the case of Dragonflight, especially when you compare it to Shadowlands, they're actually telling a story. Like, there's no massive surprises or twists, which some might find disappointing, but I personally love it that the story that I'm being told is actually the story that I'm being told. I don't have to do any guesswork as to what a facial expression from a Sylvanas might mean, and, oh yeah, she will never serve, but she was actually serving all along. It's like, nah, it's just chill dragons fighting with each other, and aerial battles, and oh yeah, cool, we got Ebonhorn as the new leader now. It's been great. I loved it.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. I mean, tying back to just some like retcon stuff that didn't even make sense. So I did a pointless top 10 forges, right? And the Forge of Souls, like the Wrath of the Lich King Forge of Souls, you know, with all the soul grinders and everything. So when I was researching it, it was just like, okay, you know, this released, it's like this big production facility with soul grinders, and they're just making like Lich King weapons essentially, right?
Yeah.
But then in Shadowlands, they're like, it would be revealed that the Forge of Souls' true purpose was to extract the world soul of Azeroth through Icecrown and Torghast. And I was like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, the whole point of a forge is to like forge weapons and forge stuff, like not extract. Like,
this one. But this has been planned since Warcraft 3, Crendor. Come on now. This has all been. This is not like we change our mind on the story every 2 years. This has been planned since Warcraft 3. It was the jailer all along, and just, you know, don't think about it.
That's true. If you just don't think about it, everything's fine.
But please, let's go back to Dragonflight. I love Dragonflight.
So yeah,
Can you talk more
Dragonflight.
about, have you tried so you were surprised about the Blue Dragonflight?
Yeah.
Does that mean you haven't done the Blue Dragonflight questline yet?
I did the standard Blue Dragonflight stuff where you like feed them the soup and you like ride around on the disc and they're like woo, and then they become friends. But I haven't done like the one they added in.
Oh my God, you need to get in on it. It's it's really, really well done.
Yeah, I'll definitely go do that because it does sound great. Plus, you get like a mount type thing, and if I get a mount type thing, I'll do it.
Just make sure that you do it on the character that's actually done the legendary quest line. And for those that have been asking, like, can I still get the legendary? Yes, you can. You won't get it in a week because there's like the reset of the raid.
Oh yeah.
But even to this day, it's still a fantastic quest line to go through connected to the Blue Dragonflight, which is kind of great. Have you done the Orc Heritage Armor quest line then?
The who?
The Orc Heritage Armor quest line?
Oh, have I done that? I actually don't know if I have.
I mean, you would remember if you had it, because again, that is like top tier storytelling that they've done. They've literally pulled out anything orc related and were like, put it in a quest line. They remembered the flower picking clan. I don't even remember the flower picking clan.
I mean, listen, you're talking to somebody who does not. I'm very bad at paying attention to the story. Like I'm really bad at it. which is why we do this series, so I can like actually figure stuff out.
Okay, so for those listening, like they've done Orc Heritage Armor and Human Heritage Armor, and again, similar to like the Blue Dragonflight questline, I adored the Orc one. The Human one was pretty great as well, but the Orc one, it just feels like a love letter from somebody who remembers every little bit about the Orcs, and like literally, we're just gonna dump everything that we know into this questline. Again, 10 out of 10, and especially not to make those comparisons, but especially to see like where they've come from. So nice.
Is that something they added now? I think I'm thinking of the Magar orcs. I'm getting it like mixed up.
No. Magar is like the allied race. Heritage Armor was 10.1, I think. It was like
I see.
A patch or so ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I have not done that then. So maybe I should, because I mean, I do like orcs. I don't like humans. They're dumb. So I won't do that one. But I would do the orc one.
Stupid rep buff. Just every man for himself.
Dude, literally just everything I play, I just never play humans. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm a human in real life. Why would I want to play it in a fantasy thing? You know?
Because they get a rep bonus, and that means you're fast done with like reputation grinds. Like that's why all my characters are humans.
That is true. That's a fair enough reason. So where do you think we're going now that we kind of know all this stuff? Everything's kind of been set up a bit, and we're going into like this, the big mega dungeon and chromey things. Like, where do you see everything going from here? Just kind of like speculating.
Yeah. Well, what we've done at the beginning was party with like the different Dragonflights and get like an introduction, a baseline as to fixing their problems. And what seems to be happening in these patches is that we seem to be finishing the job. So we've done Embers of Neltharion, which was the Black Dragonflight and the Blue Dragonflight. They've been reunited. They've been getting a new leader, yada, yada, yada. Next patch is going to be primarily about the Bronze Dragonflight. I don't know if Green or Red are going to be playing their parts. But a betting man would say that Green and Red are also going to get their part to play. Now, the Green one, we've had Ysera be brought back from Ardenweald from the Shadowlands into our world, and Malfurion took a nap again. And there's this storyline with the Night Elves. They got like this seed with the spirits of those that were burned with the burning of Teldrassil, and they're growing this new tree. And that tree at some point has to come out of the Emerald Dream, and they're going to be putting it in the real world. That basically seems to be the idea, is what we're going to be doing with the Green Dragonflights. And then it's the question as to what they're doing with the Red Dragonflight. And when it comes to Alexstrasza, it kind of just seems to be like she's keeping it all together. An individual story for her has been seemingly a little bit difficult. Like how much I praise what they've done so far with the blue and the black and the bronze and all that. In the case of Alexstrasza, they've added this really weird quest line where... basically what happened is we went back to the Dragon Isles, and in 10,000 years, the Isles have been taken care of by the Dragonkin. Some of them have actually joined with the bad guys, and we learned during leveling, like some of them are not happy with the aspects just moving back in and be like, hello, we're home, this is our land. To them, over the 10,000 years, they're like, I've taken care of this, that's my home, that's my land. Who are these aspects to suddenly come back and take over? So they actually touch upon it in that questline, in which Alexstrasza goes around and we learn more about the rebellion, and she literally says, like, I hadn't considered them being pissed off at us returning, and what do you think that we should do? And it's just, it's such a weird questline to hear the Queen of the Dragon say, like, I hadn't considered that, and be mad at those that caused this rebellion, like, oh, you better follow my lead, or you're gonna be... It was really weird. And then on the PTR, there was also this hubbub lately about, I don't know if hubbub is the right term. There was a really weird quest line where they decided that the player should have an agency in some of the darkest history of the Red Dragonflight. Thankfully, due to feedback, they have changed the quest line, and we're now actually going to be doing something better. But all in all, it seems like they don't really know what to do with Alexstrasza. That's more to my point. And I'm hoping that she's going to get more than just, oh yeah, I'm the queen, I'm just going to re-empower everybody, and that's going to be my role. But what exactly that would be, I don't have a clue either, because, like, where do you take her? Her mates have been taken care of. The Dragon Maw storyline just seems to be kind of, like, forgiven and put to the side, so it's hard to say. So yeah, the Dragon aspects, reunite them, re-empower them, maybe. I would personally say that it's a more interesting story to actually not have them become re-empowered. Because so far, like, what we've been learning is that there was this big war between the Primal Incarnates and the Dragon aspects. Order versus the elements. And you could argue that the Primal Incarnates have a point to make. To them, a world that's dominated by the Old Gods or a world that's dominated by the Titans, that's all pretty much the same. They just want the world to be as it was at the beginning. They want it to be primal and elemental, and they want it all over the place. Now, for us as the players, that's not exactly a world that we want to live in. But for the Primal Incarnates, there is definitely something to be said about we just didn't want to bow down to the will of the Titans. If they dive into that storyline, which I would find really exciting, maybe at the end of the road, we could come together and decide, like, you know what? Maybe you don't have to submit to the will of the Titans. Maybe the world doesn't just need a reset and have the aspects back again. Maybe there's a more interesting story to be told. But while I would find it interesting, if I look at storylines with Alexstrasza and the Draconids, where she just goes, I hadn't considered it, and you just follow my way. If we look at the Primalists at the beginning of the expansion that are now swept from the table, the Dragfear, that are also a good point to make that are just swept from the table. I don't know if I hold out high hopes for that kind of storyline. But time is going to tell. And speaking of the Primal Incarnates, and that war that played out between the Aspects and the Incarnates, we are going to learn more about those details. There's going to be a book, which is going to be talking a lot more about, okay, this is how that war went down and the intricate details. So there's definitely potential for it. I really hope so. But we're going to find out.
Yeah, that actually does sound pretty cool. I kind of forgot about all the Primal Incarnate stuff after talking about everything.
And which is like that's like the main thing as well. The Primal Incarnate is like our main threat, which is kind of cool because they basically just open up the way in Embers of Neltharion, and they were like, okay, you guys have fun down there, while we do our thing. We have Firak, which is the fiery one. They absorb Shadow Flame and are now breathing Shadow Flame up on the surface, but they haven't been taken care of yet, so that's still a threat. Viranov is still out there, Iridacron is still out there, and if we're not going to be getting them on our side, then we're going to have to do something with them.
Actually, before I forget, I want to bring up the green Dragonflight thing again. Because you were saying they want to regrow the tree, right? The one that burned down. Do you think they would regrow... Well, what are you going to say?
They want to make a new tree. So the elves, they had Nordrassil, that's the one that we blew up in Warcraft 3. They've had Teldrassil, that's the one that burned down with Battle for Azeroth, and now they're going to get a new tree. Supposedly.
I see. I was just curious if they would actually put that tree in Azeroth. Well, I guess we're in Azeroth, but like if they'd put it on the Dragon Isles or if they'd put it like back in the Kalimdor, like where they'd want to put that.
Speculation has it that it's going to be off the coast of Anaran Plains, but it's anyone's guess where they're going to be putting it. But it is going to come out of the Dream and into Azeroth. That's pretty... I mean, we don't know what the future's going to bring, but the last cutscene that we had is like, oh yeah, that tree needs to come out of the Dream at some point.
Okay, I see. Which is kind of crazy. They're like growing a tree in a dream and then extracting it from the dream. Cool.
I mean, similar to how, like, is it a good idea to re-empower the aspects? You could also wonder, like, is it a good idea to just reset what happened to the Night Elves? Wouldn't it be more interesting if they would go to, like, I don't know, Gilneas, or not go live in a tree again, or maybe go back to Nordrassil? It's very much gonna depend on where the story's going to go. But when it comes to like Malfurion and Tyrande and the Night Elves, that seems to be another area where they're like, what do we do with these? They literally brought Malfurion out of the Dream with the Cataclysm. Like, he's been napping from Warcraft 3 till the Cataclysm. They woke him up again, and now they put him back to sleep. And it's like, okay, bye, Malfurion. Thanks, buddy. You've done great.
It's just like an old retired person now in his nursing home. Like, yep, go back to sleep. Don't like
in Legion, Tyrande goes like, champion, have you ever loved as I have? And it's like, you literally look at your lover as he's sleeping for millennia. What do you mean? What do you mean? Yes, I've loved better than that.
Yeah, this figure, he wakes up like, Tyrande, where am I? Just like, go back to sleep. Just go back. Just quiet down.
Tyrande, where are you?
Tyrande. Maybe he's got dementia and we just don't know. You know?
Oh, poor Malfurion.
Although they could probably they'd grow him a new brain in the Dream or something.
They'll recover him. No, it's interesting to see. And a lot of, I mean, not repeat, but definitely a lot of grounds that we've covered before are being covered again. For example, Embers of Neltharion. Like, for those that didn't play during Cataclysm, they got like a whole new story. But those that are familiar with the story of Neltharion, yeah, we know that he's connected to the Void, and we know that he got corrupted and that he did bad things. So in that regard, I'm do hope that we're gonna see some interesting twists and turns, but who knows? We're gonna find out.
Yeah. So I think that's a good place to stop. We will find out. So
On the next episode of Dragon Ball.
on the next episode of Dragonflight lore. So hey, thanks for once again helping me get caught up with the lore. Always appreciate it, and obviously probably many other people got caught up with the lore.
I hope so. You always get the gears going, Crendor. You got good questions, man. Especially with like the Caverns of Time. Now you got me curious. Like, where did those Caverns of Time come from?
Yeah. Hey, thanks. I mean, it's literally just me and my brain asking questions. You know, I like, it's like when you read those news stories and there's like some guy ate like 50 boxes of grapes and ran around naked, and everyone's like, that guy's crazy. And I'm like, well, why'd he do it? You know, like it might just be because he's crazy, but there might be some crazy backstory, you know, like why is the Caverns of Time there? Why is this thing going on? You know, like always ask questions.
You read way too many Florida Man articles.
We definitely, yeah. I mean, I'm on a podcast where we have to read those like every week because that's, you know, that's gold.
Mm-hmm. I know.
So where can people find you if they want to hear more lore?
Google Nobbel87 or YouTube Nobbel87, Twitch Nobbel87, Instagram Nobbel87. You can find me all over. I also do Spotify these days. If I remember to upload new episodes, you can like listen to older videos on the Spotify. Under Warcraft Nobbel, I think.
Warcraft lore on Spotify.
Yeah, something in that regard, like episodes of Nobbel.
Okay.
People know how the internet works. Yeah.
Just keep looking up Nobbel, you'll find it.
There you go.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, and we'll see you next time. Okay.
Until next time.
Okay.
Okay. See ya.
See ya.